اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كلما ذكرهم الذاكرون الأبرار، وصل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كلما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون. This is the first sort of book of ruling or fiqh that we're going to quickly glance at. This is once again in reference to the first topic that I spoke about, how to deal with the sickly who are in front of you. Those who are sick, those who can't make wudu on their own, those who need a sense of extra help. So this is once again a paper that was presented by my teacher, Salah al-Sawi, one of the greatest scholars, so to speak, of North America. So in this book, he basically goes on to speak to the concept regarding, how a person should deal with, various situations that the sickly are facing. So once again, I would request that unless you're not writing your notes on your phone, that you don't have your phones with you while I'm speaking. If you're using your phone to write notes, that's fine. But it is very highly disrespectful that the talk of deen is going on and when we're in our own dunya. So Sheikh Salah al-Sawi, give you a bit of a context about his paper. He wrote this paper to present in front of medical professionals as well as scholars with the intention of enlightening upon aspects going back to the Quran and Sunnah principle-wise, but aspects medically that we face here in our contemporary times, and how we can navigate about some of the, around some of the questions that come about regarding medical issues that people have, and how to deal with those issues. Perhaps it may be qarib al-maut, somebody who's nearing death, which I'll explain through my own presentation. Or perhaps it may be just a general person who has, some ailment, how to deal with that. So number one, he goes on to speak to how people would facilitate for the tahara and the purity of a sick person that is in front of them. So the rule of thumb is الأصل أنه يجب على المريض ما يجب على الصحيح من الطهارة والصلاة إلا ما عجز عنه منها فينتقل إلى بديله، وذلك على التفصيل التالي. So the rule of thumb is that just as a person who's sahih, who's not sick, sahih means somebody who's not sick, sahih means somebody who's sick. The rule of thumb is that just as it's wajib and compulsory upon somebody who doesn't have any ailments to make wudu and to engage in ablution and their ritual purification, in that likely manner somebody who's sick has to do the same. But there are certain details in this regard. Of course, I will not be able to cover this entire manuscript, but I'll summarize it and send it as an email to you. So, case of al-habathi, where a person loses their wudu or their ghusl, they will also make wudu, just like the healthy person does, so long as they are able to use water. And just as a person has to make ghusl in the case of Janaza, the ritual in purification or impurity, in that likely manner, the sickly has to do the same. Another aspect that one should keep in mind is it is very important prior to the istinja of a sickly individual prior to the wudu, that the istinja, right, the cleansing process, may be by means of tissue paper or stones which are used for purification, or water, that is also done for that sick person. Even if it may be, he may be in need of help. So he goes on to elaborate. I'm just going to touch upon it. So what about somebody who's sickly and they're immobile and they can't move? Can you clean themselves or clean them for them? Can you help, in cleaning them through istinja? What about if I have to see their aura or their satir? Is that allowed? Yes, of course. That goes back to the Islamic maxim, الضرورات تبيح المحظورات على قدر الضرورات. That necessities will make illegitimate actions permissible until the need is fulfilled. Let me repeat that again. Necessities will make illegitimate aspects legitimate until the need is fulfilled. This is the Islamic maxim. So, for example, may Allah protect all of our parents who are alive, those of our parents who have passed, may Allah grant them mercy. But, for example, your father becomes immobile, and they need help cleaning themselves. Is it allowed for you to see their aura or touch their aura? Yes, so long as the necessity is fulfilled. Until the necessity is fulfilled of getting cleansed and washed, you're allowed. Right? Okay, and this is, of course, something that is rightfully present in respect to the sickly as well as those who are healthy. So, in the mother's case as well, if you don't have a female available, you're allowed to look at their, satr al-ghalif, the area, the area that, of course, the private area, you're allowed to, clean that area until that need is fulfilled. If there's a female available, that is what takes precedence. So he's just going through the general rules here of istinja, that make sure that it's with the left hand, and, if the person who's sickly cannot make wudu on their own, then make sure that you help them out as well. So we've gone on to this. Okay, if the sickly in front of you is not able to make wudu, are you facilitating help from your side to assist them to do wudu? That's not possible. Then you engage in helping them do tayammum. And we've basically gone into the details of this on other occasions, but I'll repeat it very generically. Number one, tayammum is an alternative of wudu. It is exactly as if you're making wudu. The same things that you can do with wudu, you can do with tayammum until three situations happen. Number one, you're able to use water again. You're able to engage. There's no fear, bodily or health-wise, in using water. As well as the third aspect is that you have ample time and ample ability. Sometimes a person is told by a legitimate medical professional that you can't use water. You're not allowed to use water. They'll opt for tayammum, right? If water is a health concern. In the case where perhaps they're able to use water, but the time wise it's not feasible. And they themselves did not do this with their own delay. Even in that case, if it's not with their own delay, and for example, the time is wrapping up, they have a medical procedure and there's 3 minutes left for, Asr, if they can't, because of their sickly situation, engage in wudu, they will make tayammum. And this is for the sahih as well as the saqim. Somebody who's sick and somebody who's not. But if it's on purpose, then of course this is a major sin. The delay is on purpose, and this is a major sin. Of course, this is something that is legislated for the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the tayammum. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, فَإِن لَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُم مِّنْهُ. I'm not going to go into the details of tayammum and how to do it, etc. I've already explained that before. If you want, once again, a quick reference on that, you can come back to me later or refer to the books. But this is something that is a legitimate badal replacement to wudu. Like I said, the sunnah came with striking and wiping the face, striking and wiping the arms. What is the arms? This is something that's disputed among the ulama. And this dispute is actually a means of mercy. The earlier scholars, they go on to say that the arms will refer to, once again, the arms until the elbows. Okay? There are narrations which make mention that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam just wiped on his hands, not his arms. So that can also be taken in a situation where you have trouble lifting up the person's clothing. Perhaps there's bands everywhere. Perhaps there's wraps on particular areas of their hand. Allah knows best what the situation may be. So in that case, merely wiping their face through the tayammum and wiping their hands, their hand, through their arms, their hands, until the rest would suffice as well. And then we went on into all these details at other occasions. Alright. When it comes to even, for example, their bones are broken, or their hands are you broke your bone or you have to get a cast, there is no time limit of wiping on the cast, just like there's a time limit on wiping on the socks. This is a confusion that occurs sometimes. If a person, how long do you have to wear your cast, Muhammad? 4 weeks. So, is it such that just as for a muqim, somebody who's local, they have to wipe on their socks if they choose to wear socks 24 hours from the moment they broke their wudu? Is it the same for somebody who's wearing a cast? No, it's not. Somebody who's wearing the socks and makes masah on the socks, that is, once again, for the traveler, from the moment they break wudu, is 3 days and 3 nights, and for the muqim, for the local, is 24 hours from the moment where they break wudu. However, that's not the situation for people who have jaba'in, or casts, or band-aids. If they have to, by recommendation of a legitimate doctor who understands your situation, understands the integrals of the deen, and you give them a background about it, and they say, well, this is something that you can't take off at all, you can't wash it, they can make masah even if it goes past 2-3 years. They can continue to make masah. I'm not saying that that is something that is ideally going to happen or they keep it passed on for that long. I'm just saying there's no time limit. So, once again, if a person sickly in front of you has casts on, now I remember one of my friends, while playing basketball, they broke their arms. They fell on their arms like this. So his father had to do everything from istinja to the wudu for that person. Imagine. Now the question here is a moral question. Would you do the same thing for your father? That's actually another question that we should ask. That's not the topic of our discussion today. But if you have thoughts of yuck or ew or what are you talking about, then your iman needs rechecking, right? So over here, the father is doing everything from istinja to wiping on his jaba'in, his cast. And this person stays like that for many months, right? So this is something that is allowed. And then he goes on to mention narrations in that regard. I summed up all of this, by the way. This guy's just skipping through it. Okay. There's another contemporary issue. Many a times we go to the doctor, or we're taking our mothers or fathers or sickly to the doctor, and they have to either give blood or take out blood or something, bloodletting for some situations. What's the hukum of that? But generally, if you ask a person from the Hanafi school of thought, they'll say, oh, the wudu is broken. Even they haven't understood the mas'ala here. The mas'ala of blood coming out of your body and your wudu breaking is if that blood comes out from your body, right? According to those, who say the flowing of blood breaks the wudu. And it's on the skin flowing. It's not in another vessel. Right? So, for example, if there's these medical tubes, what do they call them? Where they fill the blood in? The tube? Okay, the tube. That will not break your wudu. Okay? And especially according to the Shafi'iyah, the Malikiyah, the Hanabila, the Shafi'iyah, they say that blood mutlaqan doesn't break your wudu, right, in general. And the Malikiyah say that an abundance of blood that flows, that will break your wudu. The Ahnaf are the same almost. They say that if the blood moves off of your spot, right, and you can see it apparently, that will break your wudu. So based on these situations, you see that there is a plurality in this, the opinions of does wudu break with blood. So in the case, for example, the marid, right, and Shaykh Salah al-Sawi, he goes on to mention this as well. In the case where that individual, after the blood being taken from them or them receiving an injection, it is difficult upon them to engage in tahara, take it easy. There's a plurality of opinions, right? And especially during darura, especially during necessity, you need to accommodate by not forcing your opinion if your opinion is the harsh one. Sometimes you can take the rukhsa by looking at what other madhahib had to offer in this regard. Okay, so there's a whole niqash, there's a whole debate in this regard as well. But this is the khulasa of the situation. If you're from the Hanafi background, understand what your madhab is, even when it comes to blood breaking a wudu. It's not the blood, for example, it comes out, right, and you see it, oh, my wudu is broken. No, the blood flows from that area on your skin. If it's another tube that your blood is going directly into, don't make it hard upon your parent, right? Take it easy. Their wudu is still there. Their wudu is intact. That will be as if a mosquito sucked your blood. Does a mosquito sucking your blood break your wudu? Does it? It doesn't break your wudu, right? So if the blood is going into an alternative tube, it's not remaining on your body, then relax. Take it easy. And even perhaps there is blood that flows out and goes on the skin once they pull out the needle. Once again, take it easy. If tahara at that moment or cleanliness at that moment is sharp and burdensome upon the sickly, take it easy because there are other madhahib, other ahadith which give the effect of your wudu not being broken, right, in the situation where you need. So darura, right, when necessities come about, then madhahib become more open as well, more vast for you to take from. This is, once again, a rule of thumb. Just like how we, how the Shafi'i scholars tell people who adhere to the Shafi'i madhab that, look, you're going for Hajj, you're going for Umrah, but and perhaps you'll come, face to face and skin to skin even with women, according to them, that breaks their wudu. They say, but don't make wudu every time you catch a woman by accident. Otherwise, your whole Hajj will be gone in wudu. So, this is something that I speak to Muslims and I say, understanding application is very important. This is where we've lost the plot. We don't understand how to apply our rules. And we at times cause the biggest facade in the masajid or in our homes because we don't understand application. Right? And they also tell them that you take the Hanafi view that, touching a woman's skin to skin doesn't break the wudu according to them. Similarly over here, don't take it so strict to such an extent where you make, give a burden to, somebody who's sick. So this is once again the ikhtiyar, the reference of Shaykh Salah al-Sawi. He says that Sahaba were seen praying, bloody, like in blood, their entire Salah. Why are we there to force about a particular narrative when the sickly individual is in need of care at that moment rather than the last thing they should be worrying about is what do I need to make another wudu? Alright. Does pus, vomit, and excess, other aspects that come out of the body through infections, does that break the wudu? So, of course, things like blood, things like pus, in themselves, these things are najis themselves. إنها نجس وهو قول الجمهور. So, in terms, and there is a minority opinion that says that they're tahir, right? Even that it's not najis like bone, it's not najis like urine. This is the part of some Hanabila. So once again, the scholars have to mention these various aqwal in order for you to understand, okay, that there is perhaps a desperate situation now that blood fell on the marid. We were giving ghusl one time, we didn't have much help, and there was internal bleeding in that body, and while we're giving ghusl, it's like a puddle there that's just happening, right? A puddle of blood. What do you do? Are you going to say, okay, every single time you need to now change the kafan? Or will you take the mode of rukhsa that some Hanabila have mentioned, that these things flowing from the body, if it's something that's continuous, if it's something that doesn't stop, relax, It will be as if it's in the hukum of tahara, right? That it's tahir. Okay? So this is what Imam Shaykh Salah al-Sawi leads to. So he says, he mentions some qawaid over here, some principles. He says, الأصل في الأشياء الطهارة. Originally everything is pure until and unless otherwise. القيح والصديد تبع للذات نجاسة وطهارة. So when you look at the nature of these things like pus, if you look at it and, for example, it's something that could clearly be wiped off or dealt with easily, then it will be in the hukum of something that's tahir. Don't OCD about it. But if it's something that's stinky and it's flowing and it's curable, it's manageable, then once again it will take the ruling of najasa. Okay? So he mentions another very important rule. And this goes for everything. Something that is stinky or something that is filthy in itself doesn't necessitate that that thing is impure. Okay. An example to give in this regard. Your wife took out some meat to cook, and she forgot about it. And that meat brought it up. Is that meat najis? It's not najis. It's impure, it's filthy, but it's not najis. Najis is something that is going to take the meaning of it's filthy by origin. It's filthy by origin. Meat is not filthy by origin, right? So he gives a blanket rule here, just because something is smelly or dirty, that doesn't mean it's najis. Yes, of course, the top precedence should be cleaning yourself from that. But if it's in a situation of emergency, where somebody is going through a lot of harm, don't be focused on that particular thing when there is once again, a plateau of verdicts. Focus on the situation. They need care. At that moment, you give them that care. So this is what he's trying to say. Another aspect that I'm going to focus on here is prosthetics, or things which are not part of your original body. Are they tahir or are they najis? Are they something that is pure or are they something that is impure? Once again, blanket rule. If there is nothing to prove that something is filthy by origin, then it is not filthy. And what substantiates that is the practice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. There was a companion radiyallahu anhu, Al-Qaja ibn As'ad radiyallahu anhu. So his nose was cut off on the day of Qida. It was a campaign that happened, and within the sword fighting that was taking place, what happened? His nose got cut off. So اتخذ أنفا من فضة. So originally he ended up taking a nose that was made from what? Silver. So when he put that silver nose, he fitted it on in place of his actual nose, so making just making the passages of breathing, the image acceptable. Of course, they didn't have prosthetics or plastics and things like that, like our time. So just to make it appealable, the Prophet ﷺ granted permission for the Sahabi to take a silver nose. Okay, so this is like a prosthetic. It's not originally part of his body. So what happened? فَأَنْتَنْ. It became spoiled. Right? It started rotting from the inside. And silver has this tendency to rot like various metals. So the Prophet ﷺ then gave permission to this companion to utilize what? A golden element to form the nose for easy passage of breathing and to make it appealable. So this goes on to show, and Shaykh Salah al-Sawi elaborates, that even perhaps if something is an impermissible element by origin and by nature, for men, gold is haram, right? You cannot wear it, you cannot engage with it in terms of keeping it on your body. But over here, the need arose, and the Prophet ﷺ basically took precedence for a rule to be followed, that even perhaps if a situation comes about where you need to take to a prosthetic which is made from a haram material, then you can do that for the sake of your safety. And once again, the qa'ida stands, the qa'ida of the sunnah, ضرورات تبيح المحظورات على قدر الضرورات. Until the necessity is fulfilled, illegitimate aspects will become legitimate until that necessity is fulfilled. So this is something that Shaykh Salah expounds upon as well. And what is the situation now of the tahara of that person? How will they make wudu? And what will be their situation? So he mentioned some contemporary views as well from people like Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala, the scholars like Ibn Uthaymeen. And the crux of the matter is that if a particular prosthetic, like that nose, or for example, what else is very common today? Teeth. The majority of the people one day sitting here will have fake teeth, right? Including myself. If not, already we have some fake fillings and things like that. But you have to take out your tooth now in order for the mud model to be accepted. No, because this becomes part and parcel of your body. Unless it's a leg or something like that that is easily taken out from the knee area or below that even, which could be exposed to water and there will be no harm caused, that is fine. But if it's a prosthetic that moving it will harm you, removing it will hurt you, then it will stand in place, it will be where it is, and there will be no issue with doing your wudu or your ghusl in that regard. Number one, I don't think anybody has any physical prosthetics here. So let's make sure that Allah granted us this afiyah, right? This well-being. It's just so interesting to see the Paralympics and how these people engage in the Paralympics with at times fake body parts, or body parts that they have to get used to, plastic body parts. Make shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for afiyah, and at the same time, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or if Allah tests, then we should be content with the tests of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I just want to make mention of an incident here before we go into mentioning one last aspect over here in this regard, in this situation, in this phenomenon that Sheikh Salah is discussing. There was a chef of a particular Islamic university, right? And the Sheikh who studied at this seminary was saying this story. He said that the chef, whatever, 70, 80 years old, because of a particular medical situation, they had to amputate his leg. So the Sheikh mentions we went to visit the chef of the Janaza Islamiyah, where at the hospital. And he was smiling and laughing. So we thought initially it was the drugs. But the drugs that they give the person to relieve the pain, but it wasn't the drugs. It was the tawakkul in Allah. So they said to the chef that, you just lost a leg. You're not crying? You're not feeling sad? He said, that same Allah who gave me these legs to walk on for 60, 70 years of my life. In the last few years of my life, if he says, I want one leg back, will I automatically commit kufr? Look at the tawakkul. This takes a lot of tawbiyah of ourselves. It's not easy to do. Our teacher, Bani Salih, one of the head ulama of South Africa, he lost his entire family, his children, in a car accident. His wife, all of his children, and then remaining son that survived, even he had to get his leg amputated. It was a very bad accident. Right? But the moment he woke up, they said, they broke the news to him, your wife passed away, your children passed away. He had to get portions of his leg amputated. The first words that came out of his mouth at that moment were, of course, with teary eyes. You can show emotions. He said, رَضِيتُ بِاللَّهِ رَبًّا وَبِالْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا وَبِمُحَمَّدٍ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ نَبِيًّا وَرَسُولًا. That I am content with Allah as my Lord, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as my messenger, and Islam as my way of life. So this is what Islam motivates at the end of the day. Okay. Now, synthetic organs or organs that are made out of haram material. So, for example, you have doctors coming to you and saying nowadays there are situations where people have to be, given a liver from or various other parts from a pig. What's the situation in that regard? Because the anatomy is sort of similar or it just works. What's the situation in that regard? So in that regard, exactly the same. A forbidden element needs to be embedded in you for your survival. So until your survival is not guaranteed, without that, you will have to have that in your body, or that might be in your body till the rest of your life, till the end of your life. The same rule will apply as anything external. So now, what about something being najis al-ayn, like the pork? It's najis al-ayn. Right? It's filthy forever and ever and ever. Once again, it became part of your system. It's going to make you live till the end of your life. That is something you'll have to take. Right? Once again, according to the Hanabila, you have the choice to refuse this, but majority of the scholars say that if it's a legitimate opinion from a doctor who knows what's going to help your body, then you keep that open. It won't cause a fuss. In that likely manner, my friends, just as a rule of thumb, and he discusses this in this aspect as well, anything that is removed from a halal animal, or anything that is removed from the human being and transferred into another human being, through its cleansing, that thing will become tahir. Once anything is removed from any flowing blood, that thing becomes tahir. Allah made human beings haram to eat, of course, because of that sharaf, that honor. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We're not edible meats. This is honoring to humanity. But that honor, once again, doesn't entail that we are najis. إِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنَ لَا يَنْجُسْ. Right? A believer does not become najis. In that likely manner, if somebody is in need of a kidney transplant, and then that kidney comes from a non-Muslim being, right? A non-Muslim or a kafir, and that's being put into your body, once again, so long as the physical najasat are removed from that, it is pure by essence. Does that make sense? But don't think about this as well, like, oh, what if this non-Muslim is nurtured with alcohol or khinzir, and this is what his pork, the swine, and this is what his body is made of. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, مَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. He has not put any burden in this deen for you, this way of life that He has chosen for you. Okay? And this even applies to a synthetic liver or a synthetic organ that needs to be put in your body. Inshallah, I'm going to note this, I'm going to put this in a very brief note. Just, points. This is not in the English language. It's in the Arabic language, and I'll send it with my email that I send my presentation. The presentation of how to deal with, people at their last moments. Inshallah, that will be by your version after the program. The next aspect that we have in terms of discussion is how to deal with a person who's nearing death and post-death. Okay? And then next week, Abu Nadhan will do a practical demonstration of that. Do you have any questions thus far? If not, then inshallah. Yes. So this is once again another topic. It's not the topic of our discussion, but to be very brief about it. To be very, very brief about it, there's a dispute among ulama, legitimate dispute, because this is not an old phenomenon, it's a new phenomenon of donating body parts for the benefit of others, organ donation. So the Darul Ifta of Azhar, various scholars from Saudiya, the Darul Iftas, which are from the Indo-Pak region, the Darul Ifta in Malaysia, they've all advocated for the organ donation, things that will benefit other human beings. So the fine line here is it going to benefit the human being, or is it going to not benefit another human being in the short term? That's what's going to be the aspect that's looked at over here. So, for example, if somebody is donating their body to science, that's not benefiting a human being short term. Although Dr. Hatem al-Hajj, one of the speakers, one of the scholars of Amjad, I don't think he sees an issue with that. The majority of the ulama, they see an issue with that situation because it's not benefiting any human being right away. As compared to organ donation, right after your organs are harvested, maybe perhaps at the time of death or around in that likely manner, if somebody has donated a particular part of their embryo or a particular part of their child who perhaps passed away in the womb, or the child who was taken out of that, and then that is utilized to make certain other synthetic materials or vaccinations. This is something that, once again, the doctors would discuss among themselves, and if they feel that there's no even other ingredient that could be used as an alternative to this, then so be it. Right? These things are allowed. Even in terms of, for example, teeth and those aspects. If other people have opted, because the bone in itself is not a najis element. Once again, no body part internally is najis. Generally, there's nothing that is najis about a human being. And a mu'min la yanjus, and a believer especially is not najis. So, for example, somebody's bones, as you mentioned, are utilized as elements in synthetic teeth, or fake teeth that have to be put into people's mouths out of need. They don't follow the same rule. They will not be najis. But as a Muslim, if a Muslim wants to help with their own body, once again, this is not our subject of discussion. It requires more tafsir, more details, but I'm just trying to sum up the entire topic. Then it'll be aspects that benefit the human being right away, and aspects that won't disfigure the body of the parent body. So, for example, you cannot go about as a Muslim and donate your arm or donate your leg, if that's even a thing, right? Or donate your head. Internally, you're able to donate your organs. So follow up to that. Exactly, yeah. But those things would be, up till now, heavily debatable among academic scholars. That's still in discussion because there is some disfiguring that would occur if you're going to extract something. Like I told you, Dr. Hakim al-Hajj, he doesn't see a problem with it, but even while he was explaining, I said I see a huge problem with this because one thing that the Prophet ﷺ forbade for the alive and the dead is must. You cannot disfigure their body to such an extent where apparently there's a disfiguring that occurred. Internally, you're not able to tell, excuse me. So things like the kidneys, the heart, the liver, that can be utilized to benefit other human beings. Yes. Like you're saying, if there's a situation where somebody presented halal food at the occasion of Diwali or something, well, these things should be avoided because, once again, doing these things, giving out food for the sake of some peer or for the sake of some sheikh, there's a lot of mushabaha with shirk in that. That just like people give food for their idols, if a Muslim starts giving food in the name of some sheikh, that's not something that the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ came with to begin with even. And there's that mushabaha of shirk. There's that resemblance of shirk that occurs. So that is definitely something that should be avoided. It would not be allowed is offered in the name of some idol, that wouldn't be haram on a Muslim. In that likely manner, if it's devoted to a person, then it's not made of any karaha as well. Of course, the animal is generally slaughtered in the name of Allah, but then they make a niyyah to give it in the name of somebody. It's definitely avoidable. It should be avoidable. You cannot call that meat haram because it was slaughtered in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unless if there are people, better, the people from the Indo-Pak background, if there are people who actually slaughter in the name of their mashaykh, right? If that happens, then that is definitely haram, without a doubt. That is haram to eat, that is haram to consume, that is haram to share or give as well. But once again, let's stick to the topic, inshallah. Maybe with organ donation, we've already covered that. It's something that we can refresh on in another time. But the crux of it is generally among the scholars, the opinion is anything that doesn't cause disfiguring and anything which will be a short-term benefit, that is allowed in terms of donating. Things like donating your body to science, which is, once again, perhaps going to be deconstructed and different chemicals will fall onto your body and perhaps even disintegrated. This is something that is definitely looked down upon and it is haram. That's my opinion. Yes, of course. So these things are okay. Donating blood, this is something, anyways, bloodletting was a culture at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Although there was no sense of donating that blood, but bloodletting generally is good for your body in any case. If that's coming up as a benefit, whatever human being, may they be Muslim or non-Muslim, that's also fine. All right. When the death occurs after days of sickness or a sudden death, and of course you have the possession of the body, it's not that the body... Sorry, you had a question as well, Brother Shariq? Yes? Yes. Wudu or tayammum. Because unconsciousness will break your wudu. Becoming unconscious will break your wudu. So, of course, it's not a body that drowned or was disintegrated. You have somebody who naturally passed away in front of you. So, when the soul departs, try your best to avoid wailing and shouting and embrace Qibla. Understand that this is the nature of this world. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Every soul shall taste death. Like I mentioned by the graveside, everybody is in transit. Some people just took their flights earlier. Okay? Oops. All right. Unfortunately, people panic at this moment, and people let their emotions get the better of them, and rightfully so. Sometimes it's uncontrollable, but we should, once again, avoid all of those aspects that are antithetical, and that might cause even more harm to the people who are there as well as the body. What do I mean by that? In a fit of panic, sometimes people don't close the eyes of the deceased. They're panicking, they're hitting themselves. I've even seen Muslims hitting themselves in various cultures. And they're crying, and the body's just laying there. The first thing that you need to do is put your emotions aside, as difficult as that may be, and deal with the body appropriately. Because once you let the body sit for a while, then every single part of the body becomes hard. The mouth is not in the body anymore. For the eyes, sometimes you're opening a grave up by the gravesite, or in order to do ghusl, and the body is so difficult to look at, because the family didn't take care of the body. So sometimes you are in a situation where you have somebody's eyes open like this, like lifeless. And imagine you have to give ghusl like that. So close the eyes of the deceased person right away as soon as the soul departs. And when you die, once again, your soul is what's holding you together. It's holding your Your ruh is what's holding your joints in place, your nerves in place. Once that soul escapes, even the mouth opens up for some people. I've seen janazas, and I've perhaps watched over 100 bodies now in my life. I've seen janazas where the person, their mouth is wide open. What the sunnah came with is you take a shawl or a piece of cloth and you bind the jaw from the bottom. Allah will show you how to do that next week in person. Dummy or no dummy, practical or no practical, my personal belief is you don't know how to wash a body until you wash a body. Right? Got some dummy from the Yemeni clothes store that me and him go to steal to show you how to wash a body. It's not going to work. It's just different. So, bind the lower jaw with a bandage or tie a strip of a cloth from the bottom to the top in such a way where because of the pressure of the knot, the mouth stays closed. As simple as that. Fasten the feet together. Right now, alhamdulillah, we're healthy and well. Our feet, we can control the way we want. Or the moment the soul leaves the body, what happens? The feet become light and they open up like this. Not a very pretty mu'adab sight. Take the feet, once again, put them together, and bind them with a cloth. And after a few hours, even if you remove that cloth from the jaw, from beneath the jaw, and from the feet, the body will stay as is. Why? Because the body has stiffened. It will not take any hours for that to happen. Depending on the season, depending on the body, it's different. But generally, give it a couple of hours and the body stiffens. Yes, even the arms. So sometimes people, even in their last fight with medical note, when the ruh is coming out, their arms are all over the places. Their fingers are even crooked. Make sure you straighten up the fingers and you put that by the side of the body with straightened fingers. You know something? Let me tell you something. Something that happened. We went to the hospice where one of our brothers who passed away was. They didn't have any guidelines from the Muslim community up till now on how to deal with a person who's Muslim and in hospice. So coincidentally, alhamdulillah, Allah opportunity for me to go there, and I had a whole discussion with one of the directors there. And I said, look, you can use this as a criteria. Don't do things from your own side. But his brother, they shaved his beard without us knowing. They put on something called Islamic music. Because for the Christians, they have music that gives them some soothing element or whatever. So they thought, okay, he's Muslim, let's look for some Islamic music. But this is the stuff that they were doing. And this could be you or me tomorrow. Allah ma'afina, Allah grant us afiyah. Right? So, alhamdulillah, I had a chance to speak and I said, look, this is the criteria. Don't do anything above or beyond this. And they have a copy of this, by the way. Yes, as much as possible, do this naturally to avoid embalming. What is embalming? Embalming is when, because of your laziness or because of your inattention, not giving attention properly to the body, now in order to make some of these closings or procedures of moving the hands and the feet, you need to embalm by using chemicals which will re-soften the body. And those chemicals will be, buried with that person if it's a very ugly sight. That is why the first thing that you should do is take care of the body before your emotion. Embalming is haram, right? And in any case. Alright. When death occurs, we need to understand the treatment of the deceased at that moment. Privacy of the deceased person is paramount and it should be observed. Many people who don't know how to give ghusl properly, they're all over the place, and they end up by accident even repelling the awra, the place that needs to be covered of the dead person. Just don't think when you pass away, you're going to be naked. No. The awra has to remain covered. You cannot see that even after death. You can't see it in life, you can't see it after death. So I'm always reminding the brothers, cover the awra, cover the awra, cover the awra. The entire time, ask those who've made ghusl, you cannot see the awra. It's impossible if you do it right. Okay? So that is the privacy that I'm referring to, along with anything that happens there. While the person passed away, or while you're giving ghusl, sometimes Allah Ta'ala shows you different things. You don't say that to anyone. Sometimes you see nur emanating, or you feel nur is emanating. Sometimes you see some things that could be taken even as punishments. Very disturbing situations. Hush. Right? That is the integrity of the mayyit. There's only one thing that is to be mentioned about the mayyit after they pass away. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, اذكروا محاسن موتاكم. But if you want to remember anything, remember the good aspects of the dead person. Nothing that is difficult. Anyone who causes discomfort in that gathering should be made to leave when the death occurs. Family should be given brief time with the deceased. This is what the Sunnah has come forth with. Not too much time that it becomes days. Or not like one person told me, subhanAllah. You know, in this field you experience the best of the best and you experience the worst of the worst. When grandmother passed away, and the family reached out and said, look, we have a wedding on Sunday. The grandmother passed away on Friday. Can we delay the Janaza until after the wedding? But are you serious? No, that's not going to happen. And then, of course, have the funeral ASAP. Things like, I want to send my dada back home, to be buried with my daddy and my uncle and my whatever. All that is haram. That's not allowed. Because that body will go through immense torture. People don't realize what they want to have that body be put through. Number one, all the blood has to be drained from the body. Number two, they need to be embalmed with chemicals, which will preserve the body temporarily. They need to have fake skin put on them. Lots of crazy things, right? That is done with the body when you engage in this. It's very easy to say, my father will feel comfortable if his father is buried next to his mother, or whatever it may be. But nothing is above the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wherever a person passes away, bury them there. Right? If it's a good person, then they're going to the reward of Allah. And if it's a bad person, then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that this individual is also going back to then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, why should you hold a burden? Have the funeral ASAP. When the ghusl comes, you'll see how it's done practically next week. Ghusl al-mayyit is a very important ritual in Islam. It is a way to purify the deceased before their burial, and it is an obligation upon the community to perform this act of kindness for the deceased. So this is something that the Muslims should generally learn, because in reference to our community, Abu Nizam will not always be there. Abdul Karim Maw'id will always not be there. Imam Nadhar will always not be there. But perhaps it could be one of us that you have to wash. Allah grant us all afiyah. So you need to learn this. And the way you'll learn is, once again, I would say a fraction of it is taught through the dummy. But the way you'll learn is to come for actual Muslims. or come when actual death occurs. How many people have seen people dying in front of them? That should become a norm if you are somebody who is wanting betterment for society, that you're out there to help out people, right? You might say, oh, I can't take it, I'm very coward, I have a lot of cowardice in me. When will the time come then? Right? It's a fard kifaya, meaning if some of the community does not fulfill this obligation, then the entire community will be sinful. Okay. So step one, purify yourself. You make wudu, you make ghusl, whatever it may be, this is mustahab. It's not a mandatory aspect to have, it's mustahab. So you'll be pure to purify. The deceased person's body should be placed on a clean, flat surface, such as a table or a mat. And the body should be covered with a sheet of cloth to maintain modesty. So no matter what, this whole time, this will be covered. This will be covered. Anybody who's doing other than that, they're making a mistake. Because you are not allowed to see the awrah. Seeing the awrah, the part that needs to be covered, is a major sin. Right? The whole time, maybe the old cloths that are covering that, and then there needs to be a changing of cloth that happens because perhaps the first particular towel gets soiled. Even then, a brother or two brothers or two sisters, whatever it may be, depending on the person, they will hold the cloth up top to such an extent where they can't see the body, and then the old cloth will be removed and thrown away. And then the new cloth will be put. But the whole time, either one cloth is suspended over the other. You can't see the body. I mean the awrah. Yes. Step 3, remove the impurities. So this will happen by massaging the stomach until if something is in the bowels, and through this natural movement, it'll come out from the anus area, right, or the private part area. And that'll be wiped with some cloths or washed away. And the ghusl area generally has a drainage system, or the taht, the bed that the body is on generally has a drainage system on it. So use a clean cloth or tissue to wipe away any impurities that come out. And then, before the ghusl is even given to the deceased, you make them make wudu. So you'll take their hand, just as you do for a sickly person, you'll take their hand, you'll wash their hands, you'll put water, you'll clean the mouth, you'll either with a sponge or with a hose pipe just around the mouth. It doesn't mean you drown the guy, right? Drown the person, the deceased person with water, no. Or you take some water and, you'll take the water when it comes to cleaning the nose, and you'll either with a cotton ball or a sponge just gently massage inside the nostrils. And then once again, the face will be washed, the arms will be washed, the feet will be washed accordingly. And you'll need to move your hands for that. Yeah, so look, you do that before you make who is the next? Yes. Yeah, don't make water go inside to such an extent until for example, you end up drowning the individual. It feels like the water's everywhere coming out of the nose and stuff. Unless you have the facilities for that. Like I've seen some places where they have a bed that lifts up. So it's easy to put water and to take the water out of the person's mouth. If you don't have that, then don't stick the pipe in their mouth. Just take your hands and wipe over the hand. Just as you make wudu for yourself, or you make wudu for another person, that's how you'll make wudu for the mayyit. Take the mouth and the nose, just deal with that. first ghusl after the wudu will take place by utilizing plain water. You can utilize essence oils or some non-toxic shampoos that go away on contact. There's no issues with that. But generally, it will be plain water. In ghusl al-mayyit, what do we call plain water? Does anybody know? Plain water is any water that is not mixed with camphor. It could be mixed with soap. It could be mixed with bay leaves, whatever it may be, to give some sense of purity to that water. There's no issues. But anything that doesn't have kafur in it will be pure water, because kafur is, the camphor is generally put with the last ghusl that you give. So the body should be washed thoroughly with water, starting with the right side, followed by the left side. The person washing the body should ensure that the water reaches every part of the body, including the mouth, the nose, and ears. So you don't start feet up, you start head down. You start with the head and then you go down to the feet. And once again, make sure that the water reaches every curve and crevice. So you will have to, even in the ghusl, lift the body up on the right side, up on the left side, or perhaps even sit it up, depending on the accommodation that you have at your ghusl place. In order for the body to go, the water to reach the curves and crevices. Right. The second wash should be performed with a mixture of water and camphor or any other scented substance. Camphor is something that was used for the Janaza of the Prophet and the Sahaba, and that is why the Muslims have kept this as a tradition. So you pour the mixture over the body in the same manner, but if you're not able to get to each and every curve and crevice that you've already gotten to in the first ghusl, then no need to OCD. Don't cause harm. And then the third wash should be performed with just plain water, just like the first wash. So I mentioned we use the kafur water for the third wash. It's interchangeable. I would say the most important thing is that you use it, right, to fulfill the sunnah. Maybe the first wash or the second wash or the third wash. Just the first wash, they don't generally prefer to have the kafur into the water or into the first ghusl, is because it causes a bit of a hindrance. Because then after that you see the kafur on, getting stuck to the hair and things like that. So make the kafur wash, perhaps the second or the third wash, to ensure that you're washing it at such a moment where you've already had the entire body covered with water. Does that make sense? So if you end up washing the body with kafur in the first wash, what ends up happening is you might feel, okay, the kafur got stuck in the hair, it got stuck in the beard, it got stuck in the chest area, it got stuck in the private area. I know if water has reached that area where the kafur has fallen on. But to avoid these nuisances, just use plain water the first time, and then kafur water in the second ghusl or the third ghusl. So you know that the first ghusl is done properly. Once the washing is complete, the body should be dried with a clean towel or a clean cloth. Why? Because depending, once again, on the system that you have available, the body might need to be transferred to another table. And you don't want to transfer the body to another table while it's still wet. Use towels. Once again, the awrah will not be exposed. That towel from the belly button to the knees that is covering those awrah khalifa, the private areas, even if that towel becomes wet, suspend the towel above that towel, remove that towel with the help of people, without looking at the awrah, put that towel back on, and that towel will remain there until the body begins to be covered in the aksan, right, in the shower. So care should always be taken to ensure that the body is not rubbed or manipulated in any way that could cause burn. And this is what I forgot to mention. But people who opt for embalming, and people who opt for, forcing themselves on the Janaza or the dead body very hard, or moving them in a harsh way, they should be very wary of this, because this is something the Prophet ﷺ told us. Sheikh Ashaq Ilahi al-Barni, he has a book where he has compiled all those ahadith regarding what the body feels after death, what happens to the body, what happens to the good soul, what happens to the bad soul, etc. And he mentions various narrations that the Prophet ﷺ said, make sure that you don't even break the bone or move the body very hard, because they feel whatever you feel. They feel whatever you feel, except they don't have the ability to talk. Imagine the people who opt for embalming. What are they making their father or their mother or their brother or their sister go through, or their daughter or their son? Right? The body's feeling that. The body's feeling that. Right? That the blood is coming out. Chemicals are being put into me. My skin is being torn away because it doesn't look appealing. Something has to be cut off. What nonsense is that, right? Now, even when it comes to moving the body from one place to another onto the akfan, ensure that you're not forcefully doing that to such an extent where the body, it slams on the other table, or it gets hurt through your movement, or through your lifting or dropping. Dressing the body. After the body has been dried, it should be dressed in clean cloth. Men should be dressed in 3 white sheets, while women should be dressed in clothing that covers the entire body, which amounts to 5 pieces or more. So the men will have the qamis, the sisters will also have the qamis, but an additional cloth that they'll have is the hijab. Once again, a call, my sisters, if you're not wearing the hijab while you're alive, you're still going to wear it while you're dead. Right? But when we pass away, we have to go back the way the Prophet ﷺ taught the believers to bury our sisters. Right? So encourage yourself. It's a journey of this life. But encourage yourself to, inshallah, hopefully wear that hijab, which is very pleasing to Allah wa ta'ala. And in any case, if you're going to be buried like a Muslim, you're going to have that hijab on your head while you're buried. So this is something that happens. Now we've opted to with making mashura with Abu Nadan and others, but all the 3 sheets that we'll utilize is the same size. Before we used to make it large, medium, and small, but we found that maslaha-wise, this is much better to do, to make it easier. Okay. The basic etiquette should be maintained. Males for males and females for females in terms of the ghusl. Family members preferred, not a must. And we have already discussed this. Yes. No hair and no nails should be cut after the soul leaves the body, ensuring a natural return. Cover the body appropriately so the private parts are not seen. And then, of course, once we wrap up all the 3 cloths on the body, and it's transferred to ICP where the Janaza takes place. Yes, any questions? Just usually the counters, they come in a bar, and you break the bar and you just mix it with water. So about 1 bar or 1 basin. And 1 basin is plenty of water. 1 basin is plenty of water, unless, there's a guy like me. Yes, any other questions? Yes. Generally, the earlier scholars have stated that men for men, women for women. However, later on scholars, some of them have what we're mentioning. However, if it becomes a hindrance to the system that we're in, then don't push your learning time. But the people are not are normally used to doing so. Even if it's a method that my wife can wash me, of course that in an area where people are not used to that. I think this is something that we really need to come to terms with. You might read a particular narration, understand it the way you want, and you might find scholarly backing to what you're saying, but there's a system in place, right? And in order for you to want to do what you want, you would cause havoc, you would cause hindrance to that system. Leave emotions aside at that moment and just focus on the unity of the Muslim at that moment. There are narrations that mention that various male companions washed their female counterparts, their spouses. However, those are singular narrations, and this is something that generally the Sunnah did not come with. That is what the earlier scholars would say. And the Grand Mufti of Azhar has even cited a consensus among the four madhahib that the practicality of things, men should, in the practicality of things, it should be men for men and women for women. In terms of washing. Any other questions? Inshallah, if there's no other questions, then yes. It's mentioned that Asma bint Umays was the one who washed Fatima radiallahu anha. In authentic narrations, it's not really, it's Asma bint Umays radiallahu anha, the wife of Abu Bakr, and who later on becomes the wife of Ali as well. The wife of Ja'far. She married some good companions during her lifetime. What's being said about her, if you want to get Shahada, or, sorry, not Abu Bakr, it was Umar. If you want to get Shahada, like die a Shaheed, marry Asma bint Umays. They didn't have the cultural barriers that we have in our time, that a woman should just be married once, then after her husband dies, she would stay a widow till the grave. In fact, the culture of the Sahaba was much different. Somebody would pass away, their iddah is fulfilled, and the woman remarries. That was their culture. So in any case, yes, this is the theory behind what we're going to learn practically next week. Yes. Right. Within the house? It's not possible here. No, it's not possible in America. It won't be possible. Yeah, back in India, once again, do what the ulama say over there, because I'm not sure what they do back home in India. If there's any facilities to accommodate you in that regard, or if they bring facilities, I'm not sure what happens. I know in the North American context, you would not be allowed to do it at home or in your backyard or something. Yes. Not heavy. You gently rub your hands on the stomach of the. Sorry, say that again. Well, that's mainly for our countries, Africa and things like that, because the atmosphere is so hot and the body swell up so fast. Over here, we don't do this. So, what we're noticing in this conversation, different areas might have different things that they do, which are not part and parcel of the Muslim itself. However, just the maslaha and just taking care of the context that you're in. Over here, no, generally after the coffin is, the deceased is put into the coffin, they're put into that cart which will bring them to the masjid, that light box. That's once again put over here that we have to do. Yes. The father's able, then the father. He's immobile, then the son. Yeah, once again, if she causes chaos and she causes an issue, then that's something that you would need to revisit as a conversation. But if she's willing, then she would be the best fitting person for that job. Yes. Some of that never happens, but if that is the situation, then the closest male to her will wash her. We'll go back to the Aurora rule that necessities will make the forbidden elements permissible until the necessity is fulfilled. So you can't find another female, and the closest male to her, right, will wash her. Once again, ensuring that her aura is covered. And that generally does not happen. That will not happen in the context of North America. Yes. So from under the towel, you lift the towel like this, and you ensure that the towel is, or the cloth is fast. You can go under it. Or, like I said, if there's many brothers or many sisters, then some suspend the towel above, and the rest of them, once again, without looking, they move their hands around. Of course, they have gloves, they have thick gloves as well, into the crevices and the curves, which need to be washed. Any other questions? Next week, inshallah, we'll have a practical demonstration, and many of your questions will be answered there as well, along with a practical demonstration of the Janaza Salah, inshallah. You have about 2 minutes to make wudu if you need to make wudu. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this humble discourse from us. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ability to live in a manner where Allah is pleased with us, and also live in